Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today we're focusing on a company that's really grabbed attention lately, executed a pretty stunning strategic pivot, making some big promises about infrastructure. We're talking about New Era Energy and Digital. And the main question, the one we keep hearing whenever a stock gets this, active is New Era Energy and Digital a good time to buy right now? Before we really unpack all this, just a quick reminder, please subscribe, like, and comment if you find this analysis helpful. Oh, and if there's a company you want us to look into next time, definitely leave us a comment below.
Yeah, we've got quite a stack of documents here, and they paint a really interesting picture. Fascinating, but also pretty contradictory, honestly.
Contradictory how?
Well, on one hand, you've got these high growth ideas, this massive digital ambition, but then you look at the other side and you see some serious financial hurdles and some looming regulatory stuff. So our job today is kind of navigating that tension for you.
Okay, let's start with the growth story then. Because the transformation itself, that's really what put them on the radar, right? They made a big strategic shift earlier this year.
It really is fascinating, the speed and the clarity of it. Back in July 2025, they switched the name from New Era Helium to New Era Energy and Digital.
Right.
And that wasn't just, a cosmetic change. It was a very clear signal, a deliberate focus on high-density AI data center projects,
Yeah.
basically leveraging their energy background for this whole digital infrastructure boom.
And that rebranding, it seemed to work almost immediately, at least in terms of buzz.
Oh, absolutely. Our sources show it put them right into that speculative arena. They started getting compared, alongside companies like DataVault, being called an AI penny stock powerhouse.
Wow, okay. That kind of association, even if it's speculative, is powerful.
It totally drives the narrative. And to be fair, they do have some operational stuff to point to. Like just this September, they signed a huge 250 megawatt strategic power agreement.
250 megawatts,
Yeah.
that's substantial.
It is. For their planned AI data center campus down in Texas. That's not a small pilot project. That's a commitment to real scale. Solidifying capacity for, serious computing power.
Okay, that sounds incredibly capital intensive, that 250 milliBRE deal. But yeah, it gives them a foundation. What about connectivity? Are they just focusing on power?
No, they're thinking beyond that too. Their subsidiary, TCDC, they're moving forward with an MOU, a memorandum of understanding for a big fiber project, like 1,600 miles of high-capacity fiber network across Texas.
1,600 miles. Okay, so they're definitely thinking end to end, enabling those high-speed AI workloads everyone's talking about.
Exactly. And TCDC is also looking at efficiency. They finished phase 1 engineering for that main AI data center campus back in August, and they're working on energy security too, with a proprietary power supply solution with Morgan Capital for the Ector County site.
Right.
So the message they're sending with all these updates is this digital pivot isn't just talk. They're actually, signing deals, doing engineering work, bringing in partners. They seem to be moving fast.
It does sound genuinely ambitious. But, okay, here's where we maybe need to pour some cold water on things. Because that level of ambition, that kind of infrastructure spend, it has to be measured against the actual financial health of the company, right? Let's look at the numbers.
Yeah, and if you connect that scaling ambition to the financials, well, the filings show some significant stress points.
Yeah.
It really suggests they're leaning heavily on outside financing right now. And that means a lot of risk, both operational and financial, just to fuel this big change.
Building all that capacity, the power, the fiber, it's got to be expensive. What's the burn rate look like?
It's accelerating. Let's start with profitability, or a lack thereof. The loss from operations, it widened quite a bit.
Yeah.
Hit $3.93 million, up from about $2.67 million in the same period before.
Okay, nearly $4 million in operating loss.
But maybe even more telling is the net loss before taxes. That worsened even more significantly, hitting $6.93 million.
Whoa, wait. So operating loss almost $4 million, but the net loss is nearly $7 million. What's making up that extra $3 million gap? That's huge.
That gap, that's essentially the cost of financing this whole pivot. We see a massive jump in capital costs, interest expense alone. It just soared. Went up to $2.96 million from only about $0.14 million previously.
Wow. Okay, so nearly $3 million just going out the door to service debt.
Exactly. That's money not building data centers. It's paying the financiers. It's, it's a high wire act. Really depends on that constant flow of capital coming in.
The debt cost is staggering for a company this size. What about just day-to-day cash? Can they cover their immediate bills?
That's another major red flag, actually. As of June 30th, 2025, they reported a working capital deficit of $3,384,529.
A deficit,
Yeah.
even though they had cash.
Yeah, they reported about $5.2 million in cash, but that deficit means their short-term liabilities, what they owe soon, are higher than their current short-term assets. It's a definite constraint. Makes it hard to handle any unexpected bumps without needing more outside cash. Fast. They're running incredibly lean.
Okay, so the financials are challenging enough, but in September, something else dropped. A regulatory issue.
Yes, a big one. The company got a Nasdaq staff determination letter. That was on September 3rd.
A determination letter. What's that mean, practically?
It's about their continued listing, specifically the minimum bid price requirement. Basically, the stock price has been too low for too long.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they need to fix it. Get the stock price back above $1 and keep it there for 10 straight trading days. And the clock is ticking. The deadline to cure this is November 12, 2025.
November 12th. That's coming up really soon. Let's just pause there. What happens if they don't fix it by then? If the price stays low?
The consequence is serious. They get delisted from the Nasdaq,
Delisted.
which likely means getting bumped down to the OTC markets. And that's usually a disaster for liquidity for institutional interest. It just evaporates. Raising capital gets exponentially harder.
And for a company like this relying on constant funding for those huge projects.
Right. It's not just an inconvenience. It could be an existential threat to the whole digital strategy they're betting on.
So if they can't get the price up organically, maybe through some good news, which, looking at the charts, seems unlikely right now. What are their options? They must be planning something.
They are. And it points towards dilution for current shareholders. First, they're already using an equity purchase financing agreement with a group called NUAI Infrastructure. That means selling shares, likely at a discount.
Okay, ongoing dilution there.
But the really big potential dilution is coming up for a shareholder vote. They're asking for approval to massively increase the number of authorized shares, potentially up to 3 billion shares.
3 billion? With a B. What does that even mean for someone holding the stock now?
It means there's this huge potential overhang. If the company starts issuing large chunks of those new shares, maybe through that financing deal, maybe for acquisitions, it just waters down the value of every existing share.
So it helps the company survive, maybe, but it crushes current shareholders.
That's the trade-off. It's a tool for survival, but yeah, it's usually pretty painful for the existing owners. They're kind of stuck, aren't they? Vote no, the company might run out of cash. Vote yes, your slice of the pie gets tiny.
What about the Nasdaq listing directly? Any other moves planned besides hoping the price goes up?
Yes. If they can't meet that November 12th deadline organically, the other tool they're likely preparing is asking shareholders to approve a reverse stock split.
Ah, the reverse split.
Yeah, they're seeking authorization for a ratio anywhere from 1-for-1 up to 1-for-100.
1 for 100. That's usually seen as a sign of, well, desperation, isn't it? Even if it technically fixes the Nasdaq price problem.
It absolutely is often seen that way. It gets them back into compliance, technically. But it doesn't fix the underlying financial issues, the $6.9 million loss or the cash burn. It's often just a cosmetic fix that doesn't hold its value long term.
Okay, so putting it all together, what does this mean for the next, say, couple of months? It feels like a real collision course between these big operational goals and these very risky financial and regulatory deadlines.
Yeah, everyone's going to be watching very closely. The absolute key near-term event is the Q3 2025 earnings release. That's scheduled for November 14th, 2025.
November 14th. Wait, that's just 2 days after the Nasdaq deadline. Critical timing.
Exactly. So in that earnings call, investors will want to see how much they're spending the capital expenditures, any real proof of progress on those big data center deals, and crucially, what management says.
Especially if they miss the deadline on the 12th.
Right. If they fail to cure the bid price, management will have to explain the plan B. The reverse split, the delisting risk,
Yeah.
the Q3 report could turn into a crisis communication event.
And before that, we have those shareholder votes potentially happening.
Right.
On the share increase and the reverse split.
Correct. Those are basically corporate actions needed to keep the lights on and stay listed, assuming the price doesn't recover on its own.
And operationally, any news expected there?
They do have a couple updates scheduled, which they'll need to keep that growth narrative alive. There's an AI data center campus progress report, supposedly due October 15th, and then a Phase 2 expansion milestone targeted for December 10th. They need those updates to land, well, maybe distract from the other issues.
We should probably also touch on those rumors mentioned in the sources. Unconfirmed, obviously, but could still move the stock, right? Especially in this situation.
Definitely. The market's hungry for any positive catalyst. The main rumor floating around is about a potential AI data center joint venture, like partnering with a major established tech company.
Okay, that would be huge. Instant validation, maybe even cash injection.
Exactly. And the other bit of chatter goes back to their old business. Unconfirmed reports of a potential large helium supply agreement that could maybe boost revenue from their legacy side.
But again, just rumors at this point.
Just rumors, yeah. Fueling speculation, but nothing concrete yet.
Okay, let's switch gears quickly to the technicals. What's the chart telling us?
Well, the overall trend is pretty bearish right now. As of late September 2025, the stock's trading consistently below its 50-day moving average. That usually signals underlying weakness, despite any positive headlines.
And other indicators, like momentum.
Also weak, the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, is down below 40. That suggests weak momentum, certainly no sign of the kind of strong bullish reversal they'd need to fix that Nasdaq problem organically.
Where has the price actually been trading?
It's been stuck in a fairly narrow range, actually, since that initial excitement after the rebrand died down, mostly between, say, $0.14 and $0.20 since early August.
So clear levels to watch then.
Yeah, it seems like there's pretty strong resistance up around that $0.22, $0.23 area, and support has been trying to hold around $12 to $0.14, but it looks precarious.
Okay, so this brings us back to the core question we started with. You weigh the ambitious strategy, that 250 milliBTU deal, the fiber against the widening losses, the heavy debt, this looming delisting threat. Is now a good time to buy New Era Energy and Digital?
Given that extreme mix, well, the sources we looked at were pretty blunt. They gave the overall outlook a very low score, 2 out of 10, with a decidedly negative rationale.
2 out of 10. Ouch. What was the specific reasoning for such a harsh grade?
The assessment basically concluded that the company is, and I quote, not suitable for long-term investment right now.
Why not?
The reasons were pretty clear. The digital business model, while ambitious, just isn't proving yet in terms of actually making money. There's that huge financing overhang driving up debt costs, and the liquidity risk, coupled with that very real delisting risk. It's just too high for a long-term hold, according to this analysis.
What about short-term trading?
Noted as highly speculative. Basically, the analysis suggests the potential downside, the risk, significantly outweighs any potential short-term reward for most investors. The whole thing really hinges on them flawlessly executing this very expensive strategy and managing that Nasdaq situation perfectly in the next, 60 days.
So a very high-risk, high-wire act indeed.
Precisely.
Okay, that pretty much wraps up our look into the information around New Era Energy and Digital. It really is a compelling story, isn't it? This massive ambition running smack into some pretty harsh financial and regulatory realities.
Absolutely. The success, maybe even the survival of the company as we know it, seems to hang entirely on pulling off that digital infrastructure plan and fixing that Nasdaq problem by November 12th. It really is a race against the clock for capital.
Well, thank you for walking us through all that.
Sure thing. And maybe a final thought for you listening. Think about how management handles this pressure cooker. Given the filings, how will they manage the need for cash while dealing with the Nasdaq risk? Do they push for the reverse split authorization, whisking investor anger just to stay listed? Or do they lean even harder on those equity financing deals, accepting massive, immediate dilution to fund operations? Which path do you think is more likely to keep them afloat through the end of 2025? It's a really tough choice between operational needs and capital market survival.
Definitely something to ponder. Tune in next time for more in-depth analysis.